There comes a moment when you look at your life and realize you've been standing still while the world keeps moving. You've worked hard, but something is missing. Deep down, you know it's not bad luck. It's the choices you've been avoiding, the decisions you've delayed. Each day of hesitation quietly steals from your future, leaving you with less time, less confidence, and fewer dreams to chase. Many ignore this truth until regret arrives too late. But one person chose differently. In the story ahead, you'll see how facing this fear changed everything before it slipped beyond reach. Daniel had always been the quiet one. In school, he was the boy who slipped into the classroom unnoticed, always choosing the seat at the very back of the room where the teacher's eyes rarely landed. He sat with his notebook open, pen poised, knowing the answers but never daring to let the words leave his lips. His teachers called him shy. His classmates had a harsher word for it, invisible. And Daniel, after hearing it enough times, began to believe them. Invisible, a shadow in the corner. A boy who didn't matter. Maybe I really don't matter, he thought. At first it was just a passing whisper. But with every year that whisper turned into a steady, suffocating voice in his head. You can't do it. You'll never be enough. He carried those words like heavy chains into adulthood. They followed him to college, where he sat silently during group discussions, even when brilliant ideas buzzed inside his head. They followed him into his first job, where he worked late nights finishing projects but never spoke up to claim credit. They even followed him into friendships, where he laughed softly at others' jokes but rarely shared his own thoughts. Opportunities appeared, but Daniel always stepped back. A promotion at work? He convinced himself he wasn't ready. A chance to meet someone new? He stayed quiet, afraid of saying something foolish. Even his dreams, the ones he used to imagine late at night as a child, faded away, blurred and locked behind the tall walls of self-doubt. His world was small, not because he lacked ability, but because he lacked belief. And deep inside it hurt. He wanted to change. He wanted to feel free, confident, alive. He wanted to feel what it was like to live without that constant weight pressing on his chest. But every time he tried, fear clawed at him, wrapping its cold fingers around his throat and pulling him back into silence. One rainy evening, the city outside his apartment was drenched in gray. Daniel sat alone in his dimly lit room, staring at his reflection in the darkened window. Raindrops tapped against the glass like impatient fingers, and in that blurred reflection, he barely recognized himself. His face looked tired, his eyes hollow, his shoulders slumped under years of carrying doubt. He whispered, "Why do I keep holding myself back? Why do I always feel like I'm not enough?" The silence answered him with nothing but his own heartbeat. And for the first time, Daniel realized something piercing. The enemy wasn't out there. The person holding him down wasn't his classmates, his co-workers, or his past. It was him. He had been his own prison guard all along. That night, Daniel made a small but powerful decision. Tomorrow he would take one step forward. Not a leap, not a transformation, just a step. The next morning, fear was waiting for him, louder than ever. His heart pounded as he stood outside his manager's office. For months, he had secretly dreamed of leading a new project that the company was planning. But he had always told himself, not me. I'm not ready. Now he stood there, palms sweaty, legs trembling, stomach knotted. The voice screamed inside him, "Don't do it! You'll fail. You'll embarrass yourself." But this time, Daniel knocked anyway. The conversation was short, awkward, even clumsy. He stumbled over his words, his throat dry. But it was real. His manager leaned back, eyebrows raised in surprise, and then she smiled. "Daniel, I've been waiting for you to step up," she said. "I know you can do this." In that moment, it was as if a door opened that fear had kept locked for years. The first step was messy. He stumbled, made mistakes, and often felt like an imposter in his own life. But something had shifted. For every small victory, finishing a report on time, sharing an idea in a meeting, guiding a colleague, he felt the chains loosen. Each win whispered, "You can do this." Each failure reminded him, "You can learn and grow." Daniel began to understand something powerful. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to act even when fear is screaming in your ear. Weeks turned into months. He worked harder, spoke louder, and reached further than ever before. His confidence didn't arrive in a rush. It built slowly, brick by brick, like a fragile wall that grew stronger each day. And as it grew, people began to notice. But the real test came one evening, when his manager asked him to give a presentation in front of the entire company. Hundreds of eyes would be on him. The old Daniel would have said no instantly. He would have hidden behind excuses and let someone else take the spotlight. But this time he said yes. The night before, he barely slept. He paced his small apartment, rehearsing his words over and over. He looked into the mirror, practicing his tone, his pauses, his hand movements. Still, that voice returned, sharp and cruel. "You're going to mess this up. Everyone will laugh." By the morning, his nerves were raw. When he stepped onto the stage, the bright lights blinded him, and for a moment he froze. His hands trembled as he clutched the microphone, his chest tight, his pulse hammering against his ribs. He wanted to run, to vanish back into invisibility. But then he remembered that first knock on the office door, the trembling hand that had dared to reach forward. If he had survived that, he could survive this. He took a deep breath, lifted his head, and began to speak. At first, his voice shook. His sentences felt heavy. But then he saw heads nodding, eyes focused on him, small smiles spreading across faces. People were listening. By the time he finished, the silence broke into thunderous applause. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt not just seen, but valued. The man once invisible had finally stepped into the light. Daniel's journey is proof that the only chains holding you back are the ones you place on yourself. Doubt will whisper, fear will shout, but you have the power to choose courage. Take one step, no matter how small, and let it lead you to the life you deserve. Remember, you are stronger than you think, braver than you feel, and more capable than you believe. Don't wait for tomorrow, start today. If Daniel could break free, so can you. If this story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe for more motivational stories that remind you of your true strength.